Hi there, I'm Modal Melodies. I'm joined by Phil Taysom from Modal.
Hi, morning everyone. Hi Alex, good to see you again.
Lovely to see you too.
Alex, Mellow Melodies. I mean,
I'm both.
Alter
You can call me Alex.
Are you both at the same
Call
time?
me Al, actually, is maybe.
Isn't there a song about that?
I think there is, but if we play it, we'll be in trouble. So
It's copyright
only original
PRS.
jams, please. Sir.
PRS, yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, Phil, you have got a new baby that you have birthed. Is it fair to say that you are the baby's father? Is that what? Are you?
Am I going to get an alimony claim?
Oh well, maybe.
I'm more the sort of expectant grandfather, probably.
Okay.
I'm so old, really. No, we have a team, and Modal is a team of about 15 people, and I'm just the guy at the back who sort of washes the cups and sorts things out. But no, this is our new baby.
Our baby. Yes.
And we're really, really, really proud. It's lovely to see it out in the world because with pandemic COVID times, it's very hard to make and ship things.
You were telling me literally,
that
is not a trivial process.
And the stuff that was sort of made 3 months ago is still on the water, and we're trying to actually get it off the ships and things like that. But yeah, so to actually see Cobalt 5S here with you in York at our friends at Gear for Music is great. And so, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Lovely to have you. And so I played around with this and I made a video.
Which is a great video. I loved it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, genuinely, I had fun with it. And
Thank you.
But as I was saying to you, I'm not that familiar with the Modal family.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of get what this is, but I think it'd be really useful for you to say, why did you make this? Why on earth did you make this?
Why had the audacity?
How did you? How dare you? And then, how does it fit into the family? But mainly, who's it for?
Sure.
Why does this exist?
Sure.
So who should want this? And
everyone by now. Look into the eyes, not around the eyes. No, Modal is a small-ish company. It's incredible. We're in our 9th year. I mean, really amazing to think that. In fact, I seem to remember meeting you all those years ago.
Yeah, with the 002.
Yeah. In fact, and we started work in secret on the 002 in 2013, and we shipped it in 2014. And not many people have made a big poly multi-timbral synth in a year. That was because we have some amazing technology skills in the company, and they're still with us, same people. And the 002 was an epic, fun ride. And we've got some amazing customers who still use their 002s daily and rely on them for commercial projects. But it was a $5,000 synthesizer, and we wanted to reach more people. And what matters to Modal is we're not a technology company where we make instruments with a capital I. Everything we do is this musical?
Yeah.
So when we put a feature into our synths, is this going to help someone be creative?
Yeah.
So
not detract from. Because that seems to me, from when talking to instrument manufacturers, it's like what I'm always in awe of is what people leave out.
Yeah.
And then it's very easy, and I've talked to people about this before, it's really easy for people to say, it should do this. It's easy to add features, but it's actually really hard to remove them so that you make something that is actually the best distilled version of itself and usable.
I mean, at the end of the day, a Stratocaster is a lump of 2 pieces of wood and some metalwork, but it's a great instrument when it comes together, and it's the same thing with a synthesizer. It's circuits and software, but bring it together in the right way, and it helps people find their creativity.
Yeah.
But so Cobalt 5S is our newest baby, and is direct relative descendant. I'm getting really worried about paternity claims now after your original opening line, but direct descendant relative of the Cobalt 8M.
But it is intrinsically the same synth, it's just less polyphony, is that right?
Kind of. I mean, obviously there are a few things we've had to change. Also, there's a couple of things we've added and some other bits and pieces. But when you want to then go into more of a virtual analog, and VA is not a new thing. I remember my JP8000 in 1990, whatever. It was an amazing synthesizer. I loved it. But VA kind of stopped. No one really took VA any further. And we wanted to create what we call EVA, Extended Virtual Analog. And so Cobalt, both the 5S and the 8M and the 8X and 837, they are all what we call EVA, Extended Virtual Analog. And you're probably thinking, what on earth is that?
Other than
We've stretched
leaving
it,
the spaceship
made it
and
bigger.
going out into space.
That's right. Virtual Analog, and I know I'm talking to a gentleman who's had a long association with these things, but I'm talking to anybody who might not necessarily have been familiar. An analog synthesizer uses a capacitor, which is charged, and a timer controller, and basically releases that charged pulse of energy or electricity to create a waveform. And you can have great fun with oscilloscopes and analog synthesizers to see that happening. A virtual analog uses a software process to emulate that charge release and curve to create the waveform. But in an analog synthesizer, you will always be limited to really 5 waveforms, triangle, sine, a sawtooth, a square, and if you've got it, PWM. The problem is that you can have so much more fun with analog, especially in a modular environment where you've got no limitations. You can start to patch.
Bend that waveform.
Exactly. Use things like wave folders. You can do things like FM and stuff which you can only do because of the openness and the modularity.
Yeah, that's true.
The problem is to try and do that on a polyphonic synthesizer is really complex. Because how do you set up those virtual patch cables? So what we have done with Cobalt is the extended virtual analog is what we call algorithms. And I'll show you some in a second. So we use algorithms. These are clusters of oscillators set up in their own little mini presets. And so FM, ring modulation, wave shaping are all built in here. And you've got 40 different algorithms. Yeah,
that's what you were telling me about. We spoke before I made that video where you helped me understand it. It's like, the way I sort of put it, is it fair to say, or is it not too simplistic, that it is like a little modular patch? Because it's oscillator to me means a single static sound.
Correct.
In many senses. I mean, you can morph oscillators, and there is some flexibility with PWM, but what you have here is like a far more, it's what is almost like a whole little mini synth.
Absolutely.
And you've got 2 of them.
And
two oscillators.
And to do that in a mono, which is patchable, like a Moog grandmother or something like that, is quite straightforward. To do it polyphonically is incredibly complex. I mean, to try and build some of these patches in poly on a modular would be
is that because is it
doing
different things with each voice?
Yeah,
each voice can be modulated differently.
Fundamentally, I mean, in fact, if I can just go a little further.
Please.
No. So with the Cobalt, one of the things to talk about, we have here my iPad, it's just a standard iPad and a standard. And this is a Amazon £16 interface, nothing clever. But we have what we call the Modal app, which is something we've actually, this is now in its 5th year, I think, and it's grown and extended. And this actually supports all of the more modern modal products, from the Craft Rhythm, Craft Synth 1, I believe is still supported, Craft Synth 2, Sculpt, Cobalt, and Argon are all supported in one app. So you haven't got to have lots of different software and worry about whether they're up to date. And but the Modal app here is quite useful because it will enable me to show a bit about what's going on. And so we can see on the recording, hopefully the screen will come through. We've got algorithm 1 selected, which is a spread saw, and we can hear you can hear those saws are just drifting and moving, and got some space around them.
So is it spread saws is like multiple saws all at once in one algorithm?
Yeah, and some people might call it a super saw.
But you just have to pay someone some money to say that?
Well, no, because I mean, actually,
the concept is not.
I used to have a super saw structure running on my Polyfusion modular, and that was a long time before somebody else had a super saw. So in terms of an algorithm, it's basically using VA to create this this structure, which we call an algorithm. And we pre-curate a lot of these. So you've got within the controls on the synth, you've got the ability to control 2 different functions for each of the algorithms. So on here, not quite sure what setup on this. That's controlling the width of the second oscillator. You can start to hear that. So it's detuning slightly. So we have the ability to control 2 different elements, and we can dive deeper into those. But in principle, Cobalts as a family are extended virtual analog synthesizers, and Cobalt 5S is the latest, the little baby.
And is it, I mean, sort of, when I look at that, you have this kind of slightly simplified, is it fair to say, does it have less knobs than an 8M? And it's like I look at that, and I know that the like phraseology was like go anywhere. So it's like, it is designed for people who are like, are they just going to go out and play more, and they just want to, or how does it work? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I think it feels more of like a traveling synth, but then it's also, I look at that and I've been thinking a lot about the separation of sound design and music writing. And I've recognized that maybe what I've been bad at in my own sort of music making practice is separating that, and how you could use something like the app, spend a whole day making sounds, stick them in your synth, and then the next day you just make music with them, and that would work on here very well. But you can fully edit the sounds, right?
Absolutely. So this is where I'm so old. I go back to my first polysynth was a Korg Poly 800, which was a lovely, lovely little instrument, but had
not so old. I don't remember it when it first came out. I did buy an EX800 once.
That was a nice instrument, yeah, a little more. Yeah. But the point is that we went through, and technology has a hand in this, and as does market forces. And so you look at a Prophet 5, which is a beautiful piece of equipment, stunningly made wooden enclosure and a great working environment. Very expensive for a simple reason. It's got a lot of stuff in there. And we then moved to cheaper instruments like the Poly 800, where we lost the UI. And we went through a period in the 80s, the bad days, the terrible days, where you had synths that really you couldn't edit unless you were very clever.
Tenacious.
Yeah, and we've come back round now, and what's changing is the way people play and the way they write. And we increasingly see, again, I grew up from the Rick Wakeman era of banks of keyboards, and now actually you get people have amazingly powerful tabletop setups. So they'll have a Volcra sculpt, maybe an Argon 8 module and a key step or something as a setup. And what Cobalt brings is the ability to be, we can run this off USB power. In fact, my little USB battery pack's down the bottom there. A USB battery pack will give you at least a full day runtime. So you could have it as a heart of your studio if you're in a confined setup. It's a mini keys, so it's smaller, but it's still very playable.
Yeah, I didn't find them. I mean, I'm not really a keyboardist, but I'm like, these are absolutely fine.
Yeah, and they have aftertouch, which is missing on quite a lot of modern synths, and to me is one of the most important expressive inputs.
Especially if you've got like quite a complex engine, aftertouch suddenly offers you so much more stuff.
Here's another patch that I just love, which is shows a bit of that. So. And without aftertouch, that would just lose so much.
Yeah. The ability to like press, and it's adding like just LFO choppiness,
just slicing up the speed of the elephant. That's really nice. So again, as an instrument, I started out by saying that what Modal does, everything we do is this musical. And if it isn't, then it doesn't go in. And that's why this instrument, we wanted it to make sure it's musical. It doesn't matter where you want to create. If you're creating in a small studio setup, but you've got the ability to pick it up, carry it. It's very portable and light. Take it off to work somewhere else. Because again, people work. I mean, there's some great videos I see of people who are meeting in coffee shops, setting up with a micro mixer.
Coffee jam.
Yeah.
Coffee shop jam.
And it's just brilliant. And that was never possible when I was younger. And I think it's fantastic that now we have people making music in that way.
Yeah.
So to me, a good instrument with a capital I shouldn't compromise you making the music, and that's what we try to do with Cobalt 5S.
Yeah,
so there are some differences between Cobalt 5S and Cobalt 8M. Principally is the number of voices. We have 5 rather than 8.
Yeah.
The effects engine is slightly different. We have no reverb. We have chorus and delay, which are actually in series on Cobalt. But otherwise, it's all the same number of algorithms. We've lost one LFO, so we have one polyphonic and one global LFO, rather than 3 you have on the 8. But yeah, principally, it's the same instrument. Where it has a bit more, we've got a new chorus algorithm inside Cobalt 5S, which will be coming to its bigger brother soon in a software update.
Nice.
But we also have the XYZ. We go into the Z dimension.
Is it not said? As a British...
Well,
it's a concession to our American friends.
My great friend James, who's my colleague in America, he actually did a great video this morning, and he was calling it Z, and we're all so impressed.
Are you proud?
We've anglicised him at last.
But is it aluminium?
It's not.
Or is it aluminum?
It's aluminium. No, aluminum. No, I mean it's a steel chassis. But in terms of the instrument,
blue steel.
It's black steel underneath, actually. Okay. But in terms of the instrument, in terms of the performance elements, it's very similar to a Cobalt 8. The Cobalt 8 gives you on the module format rack mountability, it gives you more effects, it gives you more voices, but compared to...
Does not have a keyboard.
Exactly, yeah. But then again, looking at the price points, they're actually positioned quite carefully. So if the full-size keyboard really is important to you, you've got the Cobalt 8 37 key and the 61 key X, which has the glorious Fatar TP9 key mechanism. It's just a joy to play. And so we're trying to to answer your question, why do we make this? We're trying to get our message about what we think a great instrument should be and release creativity to more and more people.
Yeah.
Somebody may not have the space for a 37 key full size or a 61 key, but have got the space for a 37 key mini. Some people might need the 8 voices. Some people might prefer the 5 because of the way they play and the genres. So yeah, they're very different instruments, and that's the crucial thing. There's no, in a Venn diagram, there's the intersections, but there's no overlap.
There's people in different parts of Venn diagrams, but like there are different setups. And I know I'm space challenged at home, and it's non-trivial to have like a full-size keyboard.
And when you go out and gig, that's the other thing.
When?
But
yes.
It's great. People are coming back to that.
They are,
and live music. And also, I was recently in Spain and then seeing people play live outside. And again, you can power this off a USB battery pack, and there's a lot of now battery-powered mixers and amps and things. So yeah,
the modern busker has it. Why not?
Well, going back to when I was a kid, we didn't have these kind of flexibilities and freedoms, and now really it's about giving people choices and allowing them to choose how they want to and releasing the creativity.
Fair.
But just to take that patch that we took earlier, which uses the aftertouch, just to actually look at that, we're using 2 different algorithms, one of which is an FM algorithm, which again, you can hear. And so it's an FM, SAW FM, with a ring modulator underneath it. So you've got 2 different oscillator engines, which you could never normally create in a traditional subtractive VA synthesizer.
Yeah.
But because these have been curated, and one of the things people say, the LFO should be faster. And the reason they're not is because why you would normally need a high-speed audio rate LFO is to create an FM patch.
Do it manually.
It's already there for you. Yeah,
in an algorithm that has an audio rate.
Yeah, and you've got complete control. And in fact, again, looking back on the app, I'll just go and change the algorithm. You'll see some of the behavior change. Going back to being very mellow and smooth. So we've curated on the FM because traditionally, again, I know you're very accomplished with modular. When you do create an FM patch, it doesn't always sound good.
It doesn't always stay in tune. Weirdly.
Right, and so we've actually pre-curated the harmonics and the right kind of partials, so it actually make it really musically useful. And then
can you play a bit more? Like, I'd love to hear more of like the sounds and the sort of way you can push the oscillator.
So I'm working we have 2 oscillator engines for every voice. And we have 5 voices. So you've got an awful lot of sonic power, 10 groups of oscillators and 2 oscillators per. So you've got a lot of oscillators going on here. And that's what, along with the chorus, is making this big, wide, rich sound. Yeah. We were talking about this earlier. Other synthesizer companies talk about having sort of huge numbers of polyphony, and 5 not seem very big, but actually it's what you do with them that counts. Yeah. And with a lot of other synthesizers, you have to turn on layers or bits and pieces of the sound to actually make the sound fill out. With Cobalt and with Argon, you don't. That's already in the signal path. That's already set up.
It is a complex oscillator. I seem to have wanted to. Other synths are available. It is like that complex oscillator concept. It's like an oscillator does far more than you think of.
And it's polyphonic. That's the crucial thing, is you've got 5 poly or 8 poly. So you're just taking that little further.
Go on. Give me some beans.
Well, let's just try and play with the other oscillator. So there we're actually just changing the coarseness of the ring modulation. It's a real deep.
It's nice. It's sort of trying to place the sound like it isn't analog, but it's not a digital. It's like got these little textural things. I see.
It's extended analog. Cool. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's why you're taking a sound that was, if you just reload, and I'm using the iPad to load, but I don't have to. I could just go and reload through here. Everything. So the Modal app, you don't need the Modal app.
Yeah.
But we work in this. There's a great expression people use called "in the box to out the box," and it's for me as someone who's been making music for far too many years.
4 boxes.
When the boxes were really expensive, they were called Fairlights. What we try and do is be both in the box and out the box, because that's how music is made these days. And a lot of people come to Modal products to their first step from software synthesis. They've had some experience with plugins, they've had some GarageBand or some Logic or whatever, and the Modal app is a way of seeing really quickly seeing what's going on inside the engine.
Because that is a plugin as well.
Absolutely.
And it will let you save your sound as part of your set.
Absolutely, yeah. So you state level within your DAW.
Use it to both pick sounds and recall them, edit them, and then send them into device, but also recall them. So
Absolutely.
Your sound comes back.
So that's running as a VST or an AU, but this is running as a pure app dedicated. And again, we're really unusual. We support full platforms. So this is running on iOS and has done since day one. It's not some new thing or coming soon. We've run on Android for a long time. And there are some hardware differences between Android and iOS. iOS prevents you from powering a device because of Apple's protection of its hardware. Android is a lot more open. If you use an OTG, you can actually power this from your Android phone.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's an Android tablet. If you have an OTG, we might not recommend it because it might cause an overdrain on the device. But if you're cautious in how you do, but we're running this from a battery pack and my iPad and nothing else. And it's a really portable environment.
Okay.
But yeah, sorry, just to explain one thing about the trackpad, which is where I started and got diverted. So with the bigger brothers, we have the joysticks, and one of the things that's just give it a good wobble.
Sorry, I just couldn't leave it alone.
It's the tactility. A great thing that the joystick is. We always try and do the best we can with our products. And so one of the things that we often get, people say, the knobs are very wobbly. And we try and explain to people, and if I go off on a tangent, there is a reason. Do you remember playing Scalextrics?
Yes, I did have a Scalextric.
So you remember that?
Yeah.
And that's actually physically the wiper of the rheostat, the potentiometer scraping. We use Bourne's the highest quality digital encoders on the market, and they have a service life of 4 times higher than competitive products.
Right, okay.
So there is they have to have a little flex in them to enable the switch to actually have longevity. So again, we try and use the best available when we make our products, and these are all the same Bourne's encoders. In fact, these are the same as in the 002 and 008.
Right, okay.
And that's how I'm touching. Is this real wood? We don't.
It is.
I'm not aware of a failure on a 002 or 008 encoder ever, or a Sculpt or anything. So, and that's something you don't need to keep clean, and you're not going to need lots of service oil, which you do with other stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say I've had some encoders on other devices which were nameless, which didn't stand the test of time.
Your mileage may vary depending on your choice, and that's the thing. You can buy cheap stuff, and I was coming onto this with the joystick. The joystick is made by an amazing company in Japan called TBM, and they're used. I'm pretty sure they're still used by the Mars Viking lander. I think still uses them to control because they're so precise and so accurate and have an amazing service life. So we try and do
EVA also. You use spacecraft components.
That's right. And then you may have recognised this from a certain other $8,000 synthesizer. It's actually made by another amazing company called Tangio, and this is again incredibly high reliability, X, Y, and
pressure.
Z.
There is pressure.
Exactly. So for performance, I'm not sure what's on this patch, but you can see the little dot glow. So I have 3 dimensions of input, which is again something that you don't find on synthesizers at this space.
And on a digital engine, it feels like the more control that you have, just the more mad stuff you can wire up.
And that's
if you do choose to go so deep.
This is what we were saying about what you leave in, what you take out. We consider with everything we do, is it musical? How is it going to enhance the musical experience? And the Z...
I like that sound. I use that one video. There's some good aftertouch on this one.
Well... Okay. So this is setting me up for a bit of a fool, but I'm just going to see what's going on in the mod matrix. We should be able to go mod and assign the Z to...
Let me
being attacked by a microphone.
I'm so sorry.
To cut off, hopefully. Just turn the cut off down. So very quickly you can just set up the Z dimension.
Pressure to control
but it's not aftertouch. It's expression input, so more than one different input. And from memory, I think it's on this one. You can hear the resonance changing.
Yeah, interesting.
So you've got more performance inputs. We're in this amazing age in time where you've got so many different flexibilities and choices. I keep losing my microphone. So I don't mind being corrected on my mic. Thank you, Alex. You've got so many different choices with MPE, and of course this supports MPE fully.
That's really interesting. What can you do with that? Like, do you mean as in that if you have MPE style controllers, you've got more dimensions, so you can
plug them in, and everything that you're doing on your Rowley C-board or on your KMI Pro Board 4, which I think are my favourite, or your Linstrument, Hagenstrom Continuum, all of these instruments or controllers, plug them straight in. And in fact, there's a complete settings page within their MPE. You can set up the degrees of which input for X and Y and Z. So and that's out, bonkers, and that's out of the box. That doesn't require, you haven't got to buy a third-party app or anything. It's all just built in there. So to answer the question you started with, why did we make this? With Cobalt and Argon, we wanted to offer choice to synthesists in the same way that if you're a guitarist, you'll have a Strat and a Tele. Different kinds of timbres, different uses, different grooves, different feels. And Argon and Cobalt, the same thing. So with Argon, you have that wonderful, more digital, biting realm of madness. And
EPG sort of world of... Yeah.
If you cut me in half, I fell in love with PPG in the 70s. I mean, my massive love as an instrument maker, and we aspire to be as musical as they were. And certainly Cobalt's, we're inspired. So one of the other things, we don't want to make clones of other products. You know, we're not saying this is something from the past. Yeah. Everything we try and do is new, and Cobalt is looking at...
Also, Argon is not a PPG.
It is not a PPG, no. It has a lot more scope, but and it has a filter. But in terms of Cobalt, we take virtual analog and go into the 2020s and do something completely new with it. These algorithms which are curated with very, very easy access through a couple of different parameters to get the most of them and combine them into these very complex sounds. So,
how many sounds do you get when you get a Cobalt?
Loads. So that's a really interesting point. You get 300 patches on board. We leave the last 100 free because you can create your own. Yep. But we give away sounds. We don't charge for sounds. Right, okay. So in fact, for Argon, I think there's now something like 1,000 different sounds you can download. Do go onto our website, www.modalelectronics.com. Good, I've got the plug in there. But if you go on there, the sounds page, you can download sounds for 002, 008, Sculpt, Craft Synth. But just for Argon, I believe there's nearly 1,000. For Cobalt, I think there's something like 400 because it's a newer product. Yeah. There's a whole new additional sound bank coming out within a month or so for Cobalt, so we're continually enhancing the instrument.
The sounds, yeah. I know there'll be people who were a bit scared when they first see like knobs and dials, and especially if you're buying your first synth. I totally get that. I remember like the first synth I bought was very knobby and was confusing to me. And actually, we were talking about the MS2000.
Fabulous instrument.
That was my second synth, and that was the one that I learned. I was like, this makes sense.
So the first one was?
It was another synth. I don't want to speak ill of the dead. But actually, it's not dead. In fact, I rebought that synth recently.
Go on. It was
a Novation Nova.
Oh, they were great machines.
They are great.
Supernova was an epic synthesizer.
Incredibly powerful. But I think what I was struggling with is there is a degree of some shared menu stuff on there. And at the time, it's just too much to get my head round. And I think that's why, I look at this, and obviously there is shared menu stuff here. Sure. But I guess that if you're playing with presets, you're going to turn these knobs and you're going to hear things happen. Yeah. And you're going to start to learn that knob does this, that knob does that. These aren't just generic because also they have specific roles. You know, that knob will always do something to do with the envelope. So people will then start to build a relationship with the physicality. But I think because you've got the app, I think it helps. And especially it helps people, I guess you've come from the plugin world.
Exactly.
And that's not something that I did, but I'm sure that helps.
You see, again...
how can it not?
For me, I remember vividly saving up, I think my salary was $4,000 a year. It was a long time ago. And I saved up 2 months' money to have a lock-in session at what was called Paradise Studios in Chiswick. Right. Because it was called Paradise because they had a Fairlight Series 2 and they had a PPG Wave and a JP8 and a Lin LM2. And I was kid, chocolate box, Whoa, yes. I don't think we made much music, but I learned how to play the gear. But the PPG Wave and the Fairlight were really clever instruments because with the PPG in particular, you had the synth and you then had the waveterm. And if you plug them together, you could do more than you could do if you were using one in isolation. And the same thing with the Modal app. You don't need it. But if you use the Modal app in conjunction, you have a workflow which doubles your speed. And for people who are exactly as you say, used to soft instruments and used to the screen environment in the box, but want to step outside, you have this brilliant transition path. And I think that we've come a long way since 1990 when your first synthesizer was made. Mine was a Roland SH3A from 1976. So I'm a little older.
You're a touch before me.
It was a lot heavier as well. A lovely instrument, which I also bought back. But in terms of modal, we don't want to imitate or copy what was done in the past. We want to do something new and innovative, we hope. And we think people see it that way. And the Modal app provides that because, exactly as you say, I can see what's going on very quickly. And also, I don't have to use the front panel. I can use the iPad. Just one other thing, we're talking about a number of sounds. And I'm using the preset editor on here. Unfortunately, on iOS, because of Apple restrictions, we can't upload and download patches. It's just to do with sandboxing and the way it works. Wow. But on the Mac and although that is changing, so you will be in the future. But Mac and Windows, you simply press or double click or press and hold any patch, and you can upload and download from your local hard drive. So in terms of number of sounds, you're limited by your storage, and a lot of customers tend to. We did a factory reset on this earlier because we just wanted to put its brain back. It took less than 20 seconds. A lot of customers will mash things up into their own set lists, do stuff their way, and then just reinitialize and then do it all over again. The Arpeggiator, we don't have to use the app, but it just gives us flexibility. So if I load this sound, which is a great example of the X, Y, and the Z on the trackpad.
Oh, wow.
It's like a reverse, so it's actually slowing the delay down. And one of the things we do, you're discussing what do you leave in, what do you leave out. We purposefully leave in the tape slurring sound of the delay as you slow it down, which is this great effect in this. So as I apply a Z, it goes bonkers. It's great fun. So I can use the X and the Y. Pitch. Nothing on the Y on this one. The Z.
That's nice. So you can use it as almost like a tape stop.
Exactly. And then with that LFO kind of shimmer on the end with the chorus.
Really nice. It's sort of makes me think of there's a lot of quite ravey sounds in here, which I'm really enjoying as well. I love that.
What are you trying to say? I said I'm old.
I love that stuff.
I think when musical genres change and come, but I mean, I think that actually for me, there's a lot of Tangerine Dream stuff in here. That's because I come from that era. And I've got a very good friend who built a very successful record company and sold the record company and had stopped making music whilst he was busy and suddenly had time. And he bought a Cobalt and an Argon and he rang me and said, I've just written 10 songs because to me, that's a good instrument if it brings out that which is in your head. Yeah. And just seeing you suddenly going, that's a tape stop. Yeah. That's, to me, what an instrument should be about. In terms of making it easy to use, though, there's a couple of things we'll do. One of them is we'll just go and load one of the sounds. Again, as you're learning the synth, there's a lot of sequences built in. So just press the sequence play button. So there's sequences built in, but why I showed that is because so in addition to all the performance controls, we've got an arpeggiator, which we'll have a play with in a second. You've also got a real-time and a step-time sequencer. And so the real-time is great for longer polyphonic expression stuff, and the step is great for that fast-moving, repetitive, loopy stuff. But going even further than that, if I go and find... something like that. We're talking about old synths, and I'm
classic sounds.
I'm very old. I love my SH101. It was one of the favourite synths.
I also love that synth.
And the SH101. I'm going to actually enlist your help, if I may.
Okay.
Could you press the ARP button?
This one.
The ARP button.
This one.
Yes. Sorry, no, it's that one there.
That
the
one.
ARP. Yeah. And my glasses on. I can't see from the distance.
So
now, if I press up key, we've got an ARP.
Yeah.
And I play two keys. you guess what's happening.
Yeah.
Let's do something a little different. Would you mind pressing and holding the ARP key?
Yeah.
So I'm going to play, and now release. Suddenly my ARP.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's a step sequencer, isn't it? Or is it?
It's a performance tool. That's the whole point. It's about basically giving the musician more ways of getting ideas out of their head. So the step sequencer, the advantage there is that you can control more precisely timings and so forth. But with the arpeggiator, quick riffs, live transpositions, it's just another way of working.
I think, can you apply like different arpeggiator modes to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you go into the, I'm not sure whether the overhead camera can catch this, but if we go into the...
say what you see.
We go into the ARP. We're currently in, and again, I can't see very clearly because of the lights, but we'll try this. So I think we should have, in fact, we could do it from, no, I'll do it from here. Inside the ARP settings. So thank you. I'm getting into a metal.
Or like a big tentacled.
It's all this stuff going on here, many arms. So in the ARP mode, we have lots of different places. So for example, the division I can change to be fast. 24th, 30 seconds. And again, related to tempo, you can do lots of different things there. Yeah, exactly. Direction, we're going forward, back and forward. Stuttering, which is one of my favourites. You do that gate feature.
It changes the gate of certain notes.
Shuffling it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a shuffle.
Shuffling it, and then random. So you start to get into Karl-Heinz Stockhausen stuff, and we've then got the newest note forward from that point. So you see how the sequence is changing?
Yeah.
And if you remember in the old Moog modular sequences, you had the ability to change the start point by using the patch cable. That's basically what we've tried to engineer in software.
Really cool.
And again, it's about making stuff more creative in terms of musical flow.
Yeah.
There's loads more stuff in terms of modes. So the newest would then go back. Backwards from the newest note. You have the octaves, so we're currently running over 1 octave. 2 octaves.
Yeah, nice.
3 octaves, etc. You get the idea. We've also got a swing. We can bring in more of a swing. I mean, you could just go, but that's the whole point. It's about bringing out the creativity from the technology.
That's really cool. Like, it's a really quite a complex ARP, but not. It's not sort of. I suppose my only fear is, like, is it hidden behind the screen? It seemed like you found out quite quickly. It's
Or
not.
you just press a button.
Yeah.
So ARP is off, ARP is on.
Yeah.
And if you want to create your own custom ARP, all you do is simply go and play.
Hold it down.
So there's no menu diving.
Yeah.
I mean, again, with any UI, you have more things underneath. But we work really hard. Again, everyone is a playing musician and a live playing musician, so we work really hard, apart from me because I'm too old. No one would listen to me anymore.
You're busy actually making the synths.
Trying to get all the tech stuff at the back end. But in terms of bringing the most important stuff to the front, that really matters to us. And as you see, just pressing one button and instantly we've got this whole world of Arpeggiator we can play with.
Can you make a sound from scratch?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
I just
I
want to sort of poke a little more under the hood.
Yeah, let's have a go. I'm not going to give you any warranties about how good it sounds.
That's fine.
But we'll give it a go.
And it's a creative endeavour. Everyone's going to have a different approach.
We'll see how bad it is. But no, let's. We're mentioning how many sounds we've got, and again, if you're on the app, we can see we've actually got 2 banks of sounds that are pre-populated.
That's nice.
But we've then got a 3rd bank that's completely empty. So I can either just go and load one of those because it's an initialized sound, or I can just press and hold the init key, and that will just initialize. So obviously, first place to start off with, let's just check what our filter's doing. So currently closed off resonance. Let's go and then just change our algorithm we're using. So we're inside the VA sweep algorithm set.
So this is like a more traditional.
These are
waveforms.
So if you go to the beginning, we've got sine, triangle, ramp, square.
But you're getting
and you're
between.
morphing in between.
You're morphing.
And they're not, that's truly interpolated. So you can actually modulate that.
Okay.
So you've got massive.
It's not stepped in any.
No. It's very smooth. And so our second algorithm, we currently let's check what our mix is. That's the thing I always get wrong. There we go. So we currently have a mix, and you can see on the screen we're between second oscillator, and the first oscillator. So I go directly in the middle, and we'll hear more of a difference. So 2 squares isn't particularly interesting, but we should be able to go and change to a VA crushed sound. Let's go mix across to that side. And you'll hear that the top end has been rolled off some of those. And again, in modulating that, can make lots of fun. So that's just really simple bass sound just by dropping 1 octave and loading up a very simple waveform. Add in some more mix. So in the same way you would on a mono, you bring in the sub, just bring in the other oscillator bank as a square, traditional synth bass sound.
Basically making you SH101.
That's how old I am.
Old things. I mean,
3A. Yeah, that's
well,
right.
Course,
that's what I lived with. But no, in terms of usability, and again, filter availability, everything is there.
The filters are 24 dB.
It's a 4-pole, 24 dB, but it has a morphable capability, and there are multiple modes.
So it's you say it morphs, as in it's a multi-mode filter, it has different modes, but you can smoothly blend between them.
No. So it has multiple pole modes, so you can go between a 1-pole, bandpass, 4-pole, but also you have different modes within that.
Okay.
And so from memory, and I knew you were going to ask me this because it's the one I can never remember. In fact, I'm going to cheat. But on the
what the app is for.
Exactly. Well, again, the problem for me, forgive me, is I'm getting very old and the grey cells start to fail. But you have got the ability just to go onto the app and go and change the mode of the filter. If I can remember how to do it. So we're now into a low pass, balanced low pass. What,
is balance like resonance compensated?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, well, no, it's not boosting the resonance. You will always lose gain because it's a 4-pole filter. That's the way you can't. The ladder will always do that. But you then have what I love, if I can remember how to get to, is the phase shift.
Oh, it's the upside down Batman one.
So basically, it's exactly as Batman. No. Hang on, I'm going to get sued for that. But you have this very strange behaviour. It sounds more like a phase because it is a phase compensation. So the sweep.
That's a weird one, isn't it?
But great to modulate, really epic to modulate. So again, we're doing a lot of stuff you might do on a mono with some patchability, but it's polyphonic. And that's
chords, those old chestnuts.
So, and then we haven't even looked at adding in some of the effects side. And in terms of the effects, we have this brilliant chorus, which if I introduce some feedback, actually, I'm just going to load a patch. Hopefully, that should enable me to.
I think it's just the dry wet.
Yeah. Thank you. There we go. Bringing some delay.
So is it like a tape style delay? Because we heard it.
It has the ability. What that does is, as you speed up or change the time, we don't lose the increments. We don't do it silently, and it has this really fun. Especially if you put it onto the Z, as you heard in that patch, you can just use it like a tape loop and do some really insane effects. You can do the same thing with a joystick on the Argo and the Cobalt.
How long is the tape? The longest delay?
Not long. I mean, it's a delay. It's I can't remember the exact figure.
But it's not like a sort of sound on Frippertronics.
No. I mean, that's. I mean, in theory, you could create that by using the delay and then adding new notes. So you could do some of that Frippertronic stuff if you wanted to.
Yeah.
To some
degree. This sequencer is polyphonic. You could do multiple passes. Could you?
Absolutely. In fact, let's maybe go and.
Do you find maybe a different preset and do this?
Yeah, we could do that with something more musical than my terrible patch.
I love your patch.
Right. What have we got here?
Oh, yeah. Well, that sounds like it might be monophonic.
Yeah, it's more sort of bass. I'm just looking for sort of... No, I need to go and find something that's...
You're in the sort of screaming lead bank.
Yeah, well, we'll go back to good old... This is a useful one because I'm going to show you another feature of the sequencer.
Okay.
So I can go into the sequencer mode. just by these dark blue buttons, just say what mode I'm in now. And I'm going to initialize the sequencer because currently I've got that in there already. So we just press and hold the init key and the sequence now goes. Now when I do that, it says, do I want this to be either a step or a real-time sequence?
Okay.
I'm going to go real-time, even though I am the world's worst keyboard player. Actually, the second worst.
I was going to say, I'm the worst.
No. But we can go and record. So we'll let that run. Really, I could do music, yes.
You did a music.
I did do music today. I can then go and overdub.
Right. Nice. And then obviously within the limits of the polyphony, it's like steals voices, I guess, to try and...
It will steal voices, but it does newest notes, so it sounds very musical.
Okay.
But I'm still playing below 5 notes. That's just,
What happens if you...
that's 3-note triads and a single bass.
Yeah. What happens if you try to put more in? Will it overwrite?
It will overwrite,
It will
the previous
overwrite.
note. So it's always highest note, newest note priority.
Okay.
But it's not just a note sequencer. So we're playing in the
Velocity as well?
velocity, of
Aftertouch?
course, and aftertouch, but more importantly, we have 4 lanes of animation we can use as well. So I'm going to go back into record. And hopefully, we're now hearing my filter sweep.
Nice.
I haven't been into a single menu.
Yeah. It's done. I was looking at the iPad, but you were not at the record state.
Thank you.
Judge, it was... Yeah, that's nice. So you can record 4 knob sweeps, basically.
Up to 4 different parameters
Yeah.
can be automated, yeah, absolutely. And that means that you then can make really sounds of real movement in.
Yeah.
And you can use sequences that are not note-based, just animation-based as part of a patch.
Yeah.
So you can actually then have motion. And that's something that goes right back to the 002, where you had the animator built in. Actually, it is the animator. It's just a 4-lane version of the 002's animator. So yeah, it provides this movement and this density and growth to sound.
Good for techno, I suppose they would. It's like
It's good for
tonal, timbral,
To
like
me, it's good for ambient, and
Yeah.
and I come from I'm old, I'm a prog rocker, so you go back to Tangerine Dream, you're listening to these very evolving, long, and again, these
I
are
know
just,
what you mean.
but that's the beauty of it. It depends on what your musical taste and aspiration is, then we want to bring that out. A good instrument should enable you to get what you want to do creatively out of your head. And that's why there's just so many different ways you can get to stuff and do stuff. And I haven't used the app or the menu diving. I've just gone off the front panel. But we were looking then at the real-time mode. But again, I'm not using menu diving. I'm just going to go and create a step-time sequence by going, so I'm in sequence mode. You can see on the screen, load seek. So I can just initialize that. And as I do, it'll say, do I want to be step or real-time? Well, this time I'm going to be step. But you were saying how many notes? Well, we're a polyphonic step sequencer, which is very cool. So I can start to put notes in by going to record mode. So I've now put in... And again, we're a polyphonic synth, so I've got more voices.
Okay, so you can jam over it. Nice.
So, yeah.
Now we're getting into Tangerine Dream sort of territory. We've finally arrived there.
My secret has been outed. But it gives you an idea that I haven't gone near the app or I haven't gone into any menus. I'm just doing front panel stuff. So workflow is really important. And it's really nice to see because I come from synthesizers for many years and people do take workflow seriously now. And if you interrupt people's creativity, it's not good. And so we try and make everything really simple on the front panel. And yes, there is a lot of multifunctioning going on because we've only got a limited number of knobs and each knob adds cost. So therefore more knobs is money. And to get an instrument to this kind of price point and to make it accessible to people at this price point, we have to make some compromises. But there's been so much thought gone in by the development team to make this really performance oriented.
Fantastic.
So to answer you, have I answered your first question? Who is this for?
Yeah, who is it then?
It's for everyone who may have a need to either have a central controller keyboard in their tabletop setup, somebody who's on confined space, somebody who just wants the power of a synth within another setup. It has, as we've heard, some great traditional virtual analog sounds, but the extended EVA part means we can go really crazy.
Do some uniquely Cobalt things.
Yeah, and that's lovely to hear you say. We think Cobalt's got, like Argon, they've got real identities, and we're really proud that we get. I read every support email, as I said, that comes in, and the ones that make me so proud are when the customer says, "I bought a Sculpt and I loved it, so I bought an Argon and I loved it, and I bought a Cobalt as well," and that's touches us because what we've done is right. It's spoken to someone. It's working for them. And the one thing, as we were talking, you've been in this industry a long time, and you hadn't really, not as long as me, but you hadn't had much time playing with our synths because you worked for the enemy. For many, it's a many. But yeah, you hadn't really touched our synths. And was it, I'm going to interview you now. How was it for you?
I really enjoyed it. I genuinely did. I played with the 002 and I was saying to you how much impressed the 002 is just like, it's one of those instruments. I know we're talking about the Cobalt, but I'm like, it has the sound. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the sound, and it's sort of.
I really
that's the kind of
have a listen to the Argon, because I tell you the a lot of the wavetables in the 002 are in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that matters to us at Modal. We're not copying. We're not doing a remake of something from 30 years ago because we haven't bothered to innovate. We're trying to do something fresh, something new, something different, and most above all, something really musical.
Yeah, I think that comes across, and with the Cobalt, it feels accessible and quick. Like if I didn't really understand synths, I could play with the presets and make sounds and do sequences as you were doing. But I also looked at the interface and started working with it. I didn't do a huge amount of sound design, but knowing complex, synthesizers that have like a complex oscillator and working with modulars, that the sound design potential in this is fairly bananas because you've got two completely different sets of. You've got two almost mini synthesizers.
They are totally separate engines, absolutely. So,
and then you've got filters.
And there are multiple oscillators within those. It's not like, because sometimes you get that, there are other synths from the past that sort of had that duality, but you had only one oscillator per part. And then the depth and the breadth of the sound comes from having those two different oscillator engines, those EVA engines running behind.
I guess I suppose what I'm saying is there's a lot to explore, like quite clearly. There would be enough for you to, if you were starting out with synths, you would be able to get sounds going. But if you really became, you're not going
to get bored with it. You're not going to run out of synth design.
You will not run out of sounds. Like if you really get into, crack your knuckles and get under the hood and start making sounds on it.
Again, as I mentioned, through the Modal Electronics website, you can download hundreds of new sounds. We're doing patch interchange, so you'll be able to go between Cobalt and 5S and 8S sounds, and there's all sorts of stuff.
An excellent YouTube channel full of tutorials and guides and wonderful people who tell you how to use these things.
Our friend Mr. James, he is a superhero. We again try and we call them modal minutes, and they are literally 60 seconds on how to use the arpeggiator. And because there's nothing more boring than trying to wade through a manual, and we do give a manual online and things, but it's much quicker often just to watch someone doing it. And you're exactly right, the YouTube channel, thank you for plugging that, very appreciative. That's another tenner. But it's a great way of learning how to. And we also do we've done them, we used to do them recently, which is the Modal chat and talks, and so we play and just let people just ask questions. The other thing is we really take support seriously. Really matters to us, and we have a policy of responding within. We aim to respond in 24 hours to every. Obviously, with weekends and holidays and stuff, a bit longer. But the point is that if someone's got a question, just send us an email, and we don't. There is no such thing as a. Don't be embarrassed by sending a question of how do I control the ARP time settings. That's what we're here for. Because we're musicians as well.
Thanks very much, Phil. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing me your new baby. I now know that it's a joint effort. It's not just.
I'm the granddad.
You're the granddad.
The dads and and
there's a lot of very other proud parents out there, and I think it's great. So thank you for showing us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe. We have more videos. I've also done a video on the Cobalt, but there's lots more videos from this channel. Hit subscribe. There is a link down below for more information and purchasing. Give Music do sell things. So if you are interested in a Cobalt and other synthesizers, please go check the links. And we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.